Yo, how's it going, you guys? It's Marcus Scraper. Let's take a look at Tesla, Palantir, and in addition, we're going to take a look at Overstock stock and take a look at some trades I've been doing with it, and in addition, a trade that I did today. So let's take a look at Tesla stock right over here. We can see with Tesla stock that we just closed above the 200-day moving average, which is this blue line over here, and in addition, close above this trend line that we've been watching for quite some time. This is the value trend line all the way back over here. So that is bullish on face value that we didn't break down below that. It is obviously concerning that the closer we get to these important areas, the likelihood, or at least it's on the table, that we can gap down below these lines and break below these lines in the future. An example of that is right over here. This gave us the opportunity for the next day to break below the 200-day moving average. This is kind of how this game works. When we get close to the 200-day moving average to the upside, it gives us the chance to get above it. Obviously, this was a fake out going above this, but that's kind of how it works oftentimes. And at the same time, you can see that once we get above this, the 200-day moving average can act as support. It doesn't mean we break below it again. So this setup here, the fact that we broke down below it temporarily here, this does give me the bias that we would go to the upside. However, keep in mind that a lot of this will hinge on the mere fact, I think on Monday, we're having earnings. I think that should be after hours. So maybe we gap down below it, maybe we stay above it, maybe we trade sideways on Monday. But then when earnings comes along, that's when we're going to see if we go to the upside or actually break down to the downside. That's when we're going to really see from this pattern, this culmination of this pattern, it's been building out to this time right here to break one way or the other. In my opinion, this is not financial advice. Now, what's going to happen with earnings? Well, will analysts correctly take the Bitcoin loss essentially? And it's not really, well, it's basically, they're still holding on to it, but it went down below their cost basis. So it's going to act as a loss, I believe, in terms of their revenue. So will that impact earnings significantly? And will analysts and shareholders identify that as a one-time expense essentially? So, or a one-time deduction. So this is something that we're going to be paying attention to and see how this plays out. Another stock to pay attention to is Palantir, and it's in a similar boat where we're just kind of riding now right on this trend line here. Again, when you're on this trend line, the likelihood, just like over here, this gave us the opportunity to get below this trend here. So we're in a similar situation. However, there are a couple differences here. So this trend line here is, one we've been watching for a little bit of time here, and we had these couple of reactions here, and basically we acted as support here, broke down below it, and then finally are back above it. If we look at a few different times of Palantir in the past, we see that when we bottomed out, it is common for Palantir to go lower before going higher. It's common for Palantir, after somewhat bottoming out here, go lower, sometimes even below the previous low, and then going higher. So this isn't surprising that we're seeing a little bit of a sell-off. This is consistent basically with all of these lows that we've seen in the past. After we go up a little bit, we do have more consolidation before finally having a turnaround. So nothing too out of the ordinary here for Palantir stock so far. One thing to consider here is that actually a trend of the past to potentially take a look at is something like this. Actually, we can pay attention to when we had this secondary low here. This trend was actually somewhat interesting, right? This actually gives you an interesting structure that is somewhat important, at least for some time. So what I'm trying to say here is that this, we don't know yet. We only have 2 points, but this could be an interesting structure that is currently forming here, potentially to the upside. So we'll pay attention to that. And let's take a look at the S&P 500. The risk right now is like, okay, well, if come Monday we have a huge sell-off and it breaks down Palantir, it breaks down Tesla, both at these critical points, and maybe the Delta variant could be that factor At the same time, we just saw this happen over the previous weekend. We literally had on Friday a move to the downside. This risked going below the 200-day or the 20-day moving average here, which we indeed went below here. We gapped down below it. Similar to what I have here. And I was watching this, I drew this a while ago. I was watching this move here, comparing it to actually this move here, thinking that this is kind of a likely scenario of breaking down below here. And that's exactly what happened here. I like to look at basically the previous scenarios of these, like what does this look like in the recent past? And that looked like this candle right here. And so we have these similar moves to the downside. And this acted in a similar way of kind of a quick recovery a little bit here. Now, the question is, are we going to have a similar reaction here? We don't know. If there's something with the Delta variant that comes out, lockdowns, etc., this could make us break down to the downside. However, this is a stark difference in candle right here. We are at all-time highs. We have this strong green candle here. We even potentially broke out to the upside here, potentially here. Now now we have to also keep in mind that it wouldn't be surprising to fill this gap here. So we could go back down to the downside, just kind of consolidate under this trend line here for a little bit more time. And to the dual thing of getting more time to cool off this move essentially, and in addition to fill this gap right here. So that's kind of what I'm seeing right now with the S&P 500. Let's take a look at Overstock and what I did with Overstock lately. So I got into Overstock at around $74.70, I think right around here. And ever since then, I've been selling weekly covered calls, week on and week out, just consistently. I think I gained like probably $400, around $400. Right now, I currently have actually an option on the table. I sold a strike for, let's see, expires on Friday next week. So we're looking at like the 30th, I think. Whatever Friday is, right? So around this time here, I have an option expiring and with a strike price of $115. I chose that strike price for a few reasons. First of all, I don't want to lose my shares. So I saw this as resistance over here. And in addition, I see these lines here as resistance as well. And so I got around, I think it was around, it might be like a couple bucks more, but around, let's just say $47 for this contract. Cool. What else did I do today? When the price went down, I mean, we went down all the way to $80.75, but when it was around $81.60 is when I sold a cash secured put, actually. And so I sold a cash secured put for $120. So $120 is what I gained. And I gained kind of all of it if it doesn't go to $70. So $70 is the strike price that I chose. And again, this is for the Friday. So right around here. This is what we're looking at right over here. So if it goes to $70, I'll have to buy 100 shares. And I'm fine with buying 100 more shares because I love selling covered calls on Overstock. And I'm going to probably continue selling cash secured puts. I'm actually trying to get rid of a lot of my margin debt so that I could leverage my debt actually to sell more cash secured puts using not cash, but using margin. So that's what I'm looking at right now. That's kind of the strategy that I'm pivoting a little bit. I got very comfortable with selling covered calls, and I want to kind of double the amount of weekly income I can get with selling options by selling some cash secured puts. And this is a stock that I'm very familiar with. So I started out doing that with Overstock, and I'll do that a lot more. And I think that I'll definitely be highlighting more of these type of trades within this channel. And as we can see over here, basically with Overstock, we have been hitting this downside. So is this going to be similar to what we did over here or over here? Or are we going to be breaking down potentially to the downside? It's possible if we break down to the downside, will we even get to $70? I'm not exactly sure. So I think I've been thinking that we're going to be seeing a bounce here. I thought that after we broke to the upside and we had this long wick here, but we can see that we are kind of falling to the downside again. And we're getting more reactions on this line here. So it does at least put us in a slight risk of breaking down. But the expectation is we are still trading within this triangle here. And basically, once we probably go to the next, whether it's to the upside or whether it's to the downside, we will break to the upside or we will break to the downside. And so I think we're having a little more time trading within this triangle first, is my expectation. And I hope you guys got some value from this content. If you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe to this channel for more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.